So now with the shop done and the chocolate factory logistics all sorted out and the building set up, it's now time to probably move away from chocolate and, well, on to bigger and better projects. And some things that I've noticed when looking around the areas, I've noticed a lack of, well, color. Of course, in my area, there is a lack of color, which is kind of by design and by theme, because I'm kind of going with like this 1950s era vibe. Very much a Fallout kind of style, also a hometown style, kind of reminiscent of what I've seen growing up. And that's kind of what I've been going along with. And the only one that I've seen build with a lot of color is Stam. I mean, just look at this. There's a lot of blues going on. There's also a lot of whites and a very high contrast. If we look over here, there's definitely a lot of muted colors. Everything is sort of in that, yeah, factory vibe, which I totally get. That's intended. I mean, that's mainly because it fits very well with Create. Also, why is there's just dead bodies everywhere? What is going on? I wonder if those are the same, maybe the same killers out on the loose, the one that took me out. I didn't get to see his face, but I was out putting in like things in the train station, like just right over here. And I was placing levers in the train station and I don't know. I just died all of a sudden and I still don't know who did that. But anyways, one way to get sidetracked, over here in the shopping district, there's a lot more color, which is really nice, but there is a very specific block, type of blocks that I do not see really being used. I see terracotta, which has very muted colors, but I don't see any concrete or even concrete powder really being used. And concrete powder is a very powerful building block. And I think the only one who I have seen using concrete powder is Stam. And so I was thinking I could make myself a dye shop and also a concrete powder shop. But this is going to involve a lot of infrastructure. I mean, a lot. If I want a sustainable supply of every single dye color, I mean, just think about all of that. There's a lot that is involved if you break it down into its individual steps. And I mean, especially if I want to make this farm passive, like something that just generates while I'm there and I don't have to maintain it or anything. I mean, this has got me thinking, right? I've got a lot that I've got to work on, right? We're going to have to do dyes. We're going to have to get concrete powder. We're going to have to loop a lot of the individual materials. And there's a lot of individual materials that are going to need to be looped. I mean, and then we also have the train logistics. Oh, there's a lot, especially all of the land clearing I'm going to need to do. And then I know you guys really want a concept mega base, but I don't think it's going to be particularly a mega base per se, more or less mega factory, because that's what I'm really going for. But the idea is to have everything like automated and to have everything funneled around with trains. But I think this operation is going to take several episodes. So I hope you guys are ready for that trip because we're going on it, baby. Now up here, I've sort of compiled a list of to-dos for dyes, and I'm going to have to worry about all of these. But the primary dyes are all of the ones you see here. All of the other dyes should be something that we can make either as a byproduct of these dyes when they're processed, or by just crafting a few of these other dyes together with each other. So that is going to be the part that automation is going to be involved in. But you may be also wondering, Chosen, can't you just dye concrete powder with the dyes like I did my Scorchia? And the answer to that question is actually no. None of the concrete powders can be re-dyed. So the actual operation of dyeing it using the bulk dyeing is not something that we can do, nor can we actually break down concrete into concrete powder. If that was the case, this automation would be way simpler and I wouldn't really need all of the dye automated. And so this makes one of the best building blocks, in my opinion, concrete powder, really difficult to obtain without really automating a lot of things. But if there's one thing that I am really good at, that is actually automating things. So this task I am totally down for. And so this leaves me with, well, another thing I need to solve. Where are we going to start to set this up? And I was thinking, I have the whole plains biome that is back behind our partway station, and back behind that is a massive area. It just needs a little bit of landscaping and also some trains or train tracks placed down to kind of give myself some direction. I think that's going to be 100% necessary. All of this that you see right here goes all the way around, and we have all of this land to play with. And there's a lot of it. Just pulling up the map, we can then see all of this back down all the way through here. This entire area is 100% usable, and I've already technically claimed this area. The only thing I have to worry about is I know Eggs has a plan to build off here somewhere, so he's probably going to extend off of my train system. And so this direction here, definitely coming through the main, probably want to avoid putting any major buildings here, as this is going to be where Eggs is probably going to extend his track. Outside of that, everything is free game. And so I think it could be kind of cool if I take advantage of this. And what if I get some tracks that go through this mountain and then also have some tracks that wrap around, and we just completely wrap around this entire area, and we make sure that we maintain this Y level with the track. So that way we don't have to worry about elevation changes, and we can use our dirt factory to just fill this whole area in with dirt. I mean, it seems like a really large project, but with like trains and being able to have deployers place blocks, filling in all of this land will be very, very easy. It's just going to take a lot of that one thing that I talk about a lot, time, and lots of it. So I think that is where I am going to leave this to a live stream. And if you have missed my live streams and you haven't followed me over on Twitch, now would be a fantastic time to do so you don't miss out on future live streams, much like the one that you're going to watch a time lapse for. Anyways, without further ado, roll that beautiful track placing time lapse. So now that the track is in place, I mean, decoration, of course, is going to have to start, but I'm not worried about that just yet because I really want to get this dye automation started. And that's going to mean we are going to need some power sent. So yes, it's time for me now to also place in some of the power infrastructure and just continue carrying our power all the way from Beardy Power Co., which, I mean, has traveled quite the distance. So yet again, clicking on the chain conveyors to continue bringing this over. Now, I have got a lot of you asking, why don't I make my own power? And I mean, I could technically make my own power, but I've done it a million times. And, you know, if I have free power basically being provided to me, I'm probably going to take advantage of it. It's really nice. And it's not too hard to get those steam engines up and running in the first place. I mean, eventually, I wouldn't mind to have blaze cakes automated. I mean, it's not a crazy task, especially in this particular pack, where we do have custom recipes that allow us to basically make netherrack. But I mean, this is such a great thing, like having the ability to like have this power in the first place and just use it all willy-nilly like this is very nice. And I think Beardstone just upgraded it, so like we have millions of stress units. That's all besides the point, because we now have this entire stretch to work with. And there may have been some villages that were demolished to be able to make way for this track, as you've seen the train going through them. But yes, we have a lot of space to work with. And like I said, I thought about like maybe flattening some of this out. I haven't fully decided just yet, but I would love this to be one massive area. But I mean, I think I'm kind of going above and beyond like my capabilities at the moment. We also need to save this because I do want to turn this eventually into a farm. But yeah, I mean, this right here is the idea spot. I think right over here is kind of where I need to get the power going. And I want to set up some sort of building in this area that is going to house our dye automation. That's the cool thing, is we'll be able to have different stations that do different tasks all throughout this area. And I think what will end up happening is we'll end up taking our tracks and we'll run them like through here, right? We'll take it and we'll have buildings that are sprawled through this area, and we'll have the train run through here, bypassing the main track line, where the main track line is the thing that's completely wrapping all the way around and even going through a mountain. Now with the chains, I don't want to go too far with them because I still have to go back in and make this look nice. And if I do that, well, it's going to try to destroy these chain conveyors, and it'll end up picking them all up. So I'm going to set this one here temporarily, so that way we can get some power over this area so we can start automating some of these dies. Now, if I'm to do this train correctly and kind of build a factory that is going to be out here handling all of this stuff, I probably want to get an idea of how big I want the roads to be. So I do want them to probably be the same level as the train track or one lower. So this is going to be expanded out too. This is going to be gravel, much like we've done. And then I guess we can leave a little space here and then figure out how big I want my roads. I think like 5, not like roads, but like walking paths essentially. So I'm thinking a little bit smaller here. Something like this to kind of run along the tracks and run along our buildings. This means that we have a little bit of space to work with here, and then the height of our buildings is going to have to be determined as well. A lot to think about. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe 3 blocks away. This gives me room to add like maybe a little ditch or something down there. I don't exactly know just yet, but let's continue off this way. We'll leave that a nice little space. And then wherever I plan on having my train route way, I think is going to go maybe through here. So this also means that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we probably don't want a walking path here. Instead, this is going to be where the train tracks actually go. So 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, with this being the center where the train track is at. And if I'm to follow the same formula that I've been using for all of my train setups, yeah, it looks like the actual wall that will do all of our shipping stuff is going to go out like this. So out 1 from the edge and up, let's see, from the actual track level 1, 2. Perfect. Somewhere out like this. I'm just going to use this as a way to identify the height. And yeah, I think I want to go all the way out here. This area going forward we can use, and now we know kind of the height that we need things to be at. Now, I still don't know how much space I'm going to need, but I am going to go ahead and get my contraption placed in. And if you haven't seen this thing, oh, it's fantastic. This is the contraption that I use for essentially placing in a large quantity of stone. And yeah, I could change it for whatever, but yeah, stone is what I'm going for right now, just to kind of get a foundation so I can actually start building some of this automation. To get it moving, I just need to kind of push into it, just like so, and just continue pushing it. And there is a powered rail at the very end, and that will stop the contraption. I mean, beautiful. Look at that. And so now pick it up and I can just move these rails over there. You know what? I think that is kind of the challenge with a pack like this, where it is just create. Like finding ways to speed up the like operation time it takes you to set things up by utilizing some of the create mechanics in clever ways, much like this. Because I mean, this makes this whole operation so much quicker. I can just kind of fly boost it in, just if I can land on it. There we go. And yeah, as soon as it hits that, boom, it stops. Now this is where things are going to get a little bit more interesting, because I think this factory is going to need to be quite long to simply house all of the dye colors. Or you know what? I could also use our stacking setup that we were using over there, and we could use that on this as well. Thinking about also leaving a little bit of an overhang on both of these sides. Of course, this is going to be the actual docking area for the train itself. But yeah, on the front section here and this side, I want to have like an overhang. It's going to be kind of like an old-fashioned feel. And I think that is what I'm going to go with for the idea for the actual building itself. But that's not going to be worked on today. We really got to get the actual infrastructure set up. And now because there are 16 colors, I am going to need 16 separate vaults, and I'm going to continue with my 2x2 vaults. But these 2x2 vaults are going to have another vault stacked on top of them. So it's going to look like this, and then we are going to have scaffold on top of that one, and then on top of that will be another set. So it definitely saves on our little footprint here. And I think to avoid needing a ton of vaults and use up all of my available space back here, just going to go 3 wide, so it's a 2 by 2 by 3 long. Now to get started, the primary thing we're going to need is really these flowers that are automatically being bone milled. So we're gonna need a lot of bone meal that is being shipped over here. Thankfully, I am producing quite a bit. So once we actually end up with a backup of supply, like this will be plenty of bone meal, but the bone meal I can't get over here just yet. So we are going to probably set up like a temporary chest just to put the bone meal in just to test all of this out, but this should work. So I really need to bone mill the peony. I always butcher this. And then we need lilac. We also need to bone mill sea pickles. And there's also sunflowers that we need to bone mill. Now, we are probably going to have a miniature crop farm for beetroots, or I could possibly add it to my other farm, but I think we might actually need the beetroot farm over here. This is going to produce some red dye, and then cocoa beans we can also ship over here from our current cocoa bean farm. We're also going to need a little tree farm to handle some of the charcoal production, and that's basically it. Bone mill or blue dye is going to be very easy because that is a loopable thing. So yeah, I think for right now, let's just go ahead and get the different things that need to be bone mill with a deployer and get those set up. And so this is kind of the idea or concept. We have a deployer, and the deployer is going to spin, and then that is going to bone mill the plant. It doesn't actually go in the deployer. It just kind of spits the item out. Now there is a simple vanilla way of actually collecting the item that falls here. And we can collect it simply by pushing this dirt into a hopper minecart. So if we have a hopper minecart and we position that in just the right position on top of a regular hopper, we should be able to easily send this out. And so let's set up a belt temporarily so we have something to actually click the hoppers on. And yeah, we can have the hopper going just like so. So let's say we have 1, 2, 3, we leave ourselves a little bit of a gap. And then we have a hopper going here. We can put a rail on top of that. Maybe we divide these up like so, right? Because we are going to need one, 2, 3 different flowers we're bone milling here. Oh yeah, and also sea pickles. Those are going to be another thing that we actually need to do, which is going to involve, I think, a little bit more space. So yeah, I'll probably move that over 1. Now in all of these hoppers, I just place a rail on top, then come in with the hopper minecarts themselves, and then we break the actual rail. In this case, the block that I'm going to have go on top of this is just simply going to be grass. And a piston on top, which we can rotate the direction with create, which makes this so much easier and saves so much time. But we do have to be quick with it because it does look like the grass ended up changing. But there we go. So now we have a grass block in here, and I am going to have to quickly place those in after breaking these. Nice. And everything kind of gets spit off, as you can see there. And just so I can protect these minecarts from moving or me accidentally nudging them in some way, I'm going to cover them with trapdoors. Now, you know what? The more I think about it, instead of maybe using the beetroot, I could also go about using roses. And roses, when they are crushed, do also produce green dye, so that could help as well. So maybe we'll do roses, sunflowers, lilac, and then we'll do the ponier, and then we do sea pickles right here. Now this one's going to be a little bit more complicated because I don't think we can just directly bone mill it without there being water right there. And I think they also have to be broken. So yeah, this does need water. So we have the water here. It doesn't have to be grass or anything in particular. And then we bone meal. Oh, interesting. Wait, does it need to be on... Wait, that's the sea pickle I broke. Okay. Then how do I get the sea pickle to actually duplicate then? It doesn't have to be in an ocean, right? Oh, interesting. They have to be placed on a living coral block. That complicates things just a lot, actually. For this one, I'm going to have to be really, really quick with this. So I need to place in the coral. I need to immediately fill the top with water, which is going to go right here. Oh, this is actually gonna be something that I may struggle with. And I think I just need water on the coral. Okay, I think water just needs to be touching coral to stay in the living form. Yeah, that I think will work. So now that that exists, let's see, this gets turned into big coral, then we need to break it. Then it needs to be replaced, then bone milled. Oh, this could get really difficult. So now I just need to kind of figure out here on the sea pickles, if I do have them grown, can a piston that is above it actually break it? And if so, that'll be perfect. Then we can just have a deployer, and then we have to worry about just sending a new pickle back in and then making sure it can bone mill like that. That I think will be a little bit easier to handle. But there is something bad that could potentially happen. The piston could try to move this stuff, but I'm hoping it just breaks the sea pickles. This is stuff that I am not familiar with. And oh, it also gets rid of the water. Please don't break my coral. No! Why would it also avoid the water? That makes no sense to me. No, don't convert, don't convert. Oh, it's already dead. And these don't grow on dead coral, do they? Oh, this is so bad. So I think after that, I've officially determined that sea pickles are no longer a valid option. I am not. No way. No way. I mean, that would just be producing lime dye. I could produce lime dye from the byproducts of some of these flowers, and I could also set up a little cactus farm that could substitute even more of the green dye, because it's only a 5% chance to get it from here. But I think each of these flowers all grant a chance of a secondary dye. So yeah, I mean, this is how we're going to get most of those weird dyes. I mean, these 4 flowers alone are already producing 8 of the total 16 dyes. So now that those are sorted out, it's time to place in another little cobblestone generator. This is the simple one that I've been using, and I think I'm going to double up the drills like I did on our other one, and just have this going on both sides. But this is what we're going to use to actually loop blue dye. So now with the cobble gens set up, I've got the power that I've started to run over here. I've just got to connect it up. You can see the chains running through there. And this is a big game changer. I still am just kind of blown away by the power of the chain conveyors. Just being able to simply send power over here and then have that go immediately up into these setups. I mean, that makes it so easy, and then I can just move the power anywhere I want. Now for this setup, to be able to use this and infinitely produce blue dye, this is going to involve us, well, creating quartz. Now I'm already creating quartz back at my main factory, but I need that quartz for other operations going on there. So here, I'm just gonna make a infinitely generating quartz farm. This will produce gold, but I think I might honestly just void off the excess gold here, or maybe store it in a large vault. But yeah, I'm not super worried about those particular products. What I am worried about, however, is producing quartz. So I've got to get this broken down all the way into sand, and then take all of the sand that is produced and also void off everything else because we don't need that. And I want to take that sand and just immediately convert it into soul sand, and also then wash that soul sand. That's where we're going to get all of our quartz. And I'm going to try and make this as compact as possible, but yeah, you've technically already seen this process, especially if you watched my like early iron farm. I mean, it's basically the same thing. Now, if I set this up right, essentially we should see sand being thrown out here. I mean, that's exactly what we want. We want to convert our gravel, and all of its byproducts will actually get wasted and thrown away, and it will be generated right here. And it looks like flint also will be spit out. So we have to figure out something to do with the flint and the clay. I think I'll just end up voiding that off of a belt. And just to make this really simple, a really easy way to void is by using a cauldron filled with lava. And then you can use yourself a funnel to send this out. And then we just need a list filter, and we really want clay, and we also want flint, which are the byproducts here. And we want that to be an allow list. And now, anytime we turn this back on, it is going to send those things directly into lava, making sure that sand is the only thing getting out. But to hunt this pretty quickly, which I still think this might actually be overkill, I'm probably just going, you know what, I'm just going to use 2, just to make this a little bit simpler and also speed this up, converting the soul sand. I'm just going to do 2 of these, and then you place the soul sand in. Oh, I got to do that after I light it, right? So we'll light this, hit it with the soul sand. There we go. And this is just to haunt this to convert the sand into soul sand here. This right here, we only want soul sand going in. Of course, this should end up voiding the other products. And then on this side, that's going to send out the items using this as a buffer to send this along. So that way we have this filter. And then we need to send it into here, but also we need to void. So I think for right now I am going to be voiding the gold nuggets, but we might end up saving these down the road. I just want to get this infrastructure set up first and then worry about that. So we can split this two different ways. So if we go ahead and use some brass, we'll say, hey, send this in. This is going to be our quartz. And then this down here, we're going to output, which is going to be our gold. And that should be able to handle everything that's going to happen on this depot. Now, I guess to see if this really works, we just need to have a funnel. And then I'm going to set the output on that funnel. Be very, very careful here. And I think I want this set to wait till it builds up to 64. That way it sends all of these items out in fair amounts, right? And so that sand is then going to be processed. And I mean, it's not going to be the fastest in the world, but we really don't need it to be insanely fast. And look at that. That got voided, and that ended up sending this over, and we should end up with a vault that only has quartz in it. No gold. The gold should get voided out. Ah, this is actually, this is a work of art. Oh, I love stuff like this. This is where things get kind of interesting. So to be able to produce this infinite dye loop, an infinite lapis loop, this is where we will mix quartz with blue dye, which we get from lapis. And if we take a look at how we get the blue dye, we will see that if we mill blue dye, we end up getting 2. And there's actually another chance of getting the blue dye. So there's a 10% chance of getting even more. So what we can do is we can always guarantee ourselves blue dye by looping around at least 1 and everything else being the product that is produced. Now you may be wondering, well, how do you actually loop this? Like, how do you make a simplified loop? Well, that is where an andesite funnel actually comes into play. And excuse me, I didn't mean funnel. Tunnel is what we're actually looking for. And that's because an andesite tunnel will always split off 1 from the stack, which in this case works perfectly for loops. So we just need to take ourselves a weighted ejector and then place it or tell it to go here. So like so, and then connect it here. And this automatically should accept that singular die, send it onto this, which will start that loop back up. So we'll just have a regular funnel that goes just like so. And so this weighted ejector will send that 1 and that will keep the loop going. Everything else will be a product. So yeah, it's just going to send it right on through. Now I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself because we actually don't want it looping here. We don't want this to start here. Instead, what we actually want is it to send off, it go into a mill, and then from the mill, the product that is produced there then gets sent back. So now this is exactly what we have. And I went ahead and moved this to the front side so we can see it a lot easier. But this right here essentially will do a lapis loop. Well, technically a dye loop, because to start this off, we just need to place this inside like so. And then I guess we send this on its merry way. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of these. I think this will be fine. That's going to send that into the mixer. And then I just simply need to hook the mixer up. All right, so here we go. Mixer is starting. And you can see that that did split over some blue dye, which got thrown over here. And then this ended up looping. Oh, this is great. And then we'll throw that back on here. Like that. And now we should have a constant supply of lapis. You can see that it is continuing this operation and it is infinitely producing blue dye with the occasional extra 10% chance dye. Just like that, voila, we now have ourselves a chest and infinite dye being generated going into this. Now that the blue dye is automated, let's get back to actually automating these. So I've got the power connected up to the flowers, and all we have to do now is get this linked up. So we want this to send 1 at a time. So these are all set to 1. And if this will actually let me, I think I actually have to define an input first. So yeah, I just had to rotate these around so they're on insert, but we want to pull from here, and I only want 1 at a time, so I'll use an andesite funnel. And then we just want it to round robin send to all of those locations. And that's basically it. Just give this some power, and we feed this with bone meal, which we can receive from any destination, for example, from our trains or what have you. But this is going to be the container that gets bone meal. And I'm thinking this will be enough to kind of slow this whole setup down, and it's going to replicate all of these flowers. And since rotation doesn't really matter here, throw in a gearbox, and then bam, this thing is powered from the top. Now I do want to see this thing in action, so that way we know all of our stuff is currently working. I'll throw some bone meal in here, and that should see with it being in round robin mode by default, all of those flowers being equally produced. That is exactly what you want to see. Now, I think to make this whole process better, and instead of us basically doing this where we are sending it just the flowers and that's what we're receiving, we actually want to turn them into dyes. So we use a millstone. This should be an easy way to have this all processed. You can see the items flowing in just like that. That should work just fine. We got to get this some power though. And to do that, we can use a gearbox and power it from the bottom. And notice all of this is flooding out. That's exactly what we want. We actually might want to change this, however, and use a brass funnel since this does produce more than one item. That's going to make sure these items flow in and out really nice. Look at all the dye we're producing. Oh, this is great. And I do have it fully turned off. I want to let this all process up, but yeah, I'm about to get this really going and we're going to fully be able to see all of the different dyes we're producing. I mean, this is already like 8 of the individual dyes. Like we have some green coming in. This is perfect. And I mean, this right here is where it's at. I mean, look at all the blue dye we got coming in. We got all of this coming in as well. And then it all needs to get sorted into containers. But I think though, I do want to mix some of these first. That way we'll end up with backups of stuff. I don't know. I have a feeling the hardest part of this is going to be actually organizing all of these dyes. But you know what? I think that is going to be it for today. We ended up infinitely looping our blue dye, or infinitely producing lapis, which this also can technically do. And we also have all of the flowers automated as well. I think this is a pretty good starting point for this rather large project. It doesn't sound like very difficult, but it is quite the undertaking. And it feels like all of the projects I've been working on lately have been some of the most complicated out of all of the automations that you can do in the Create mod. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope you guys enjoy this this very complicated 16 die automation process. This is just the first part. There's going to be, well, a few more because this is going to require significantly more logistics, and also we got to make a pretty building for it. And then we also have to automate the concrete powder, which is an entirely different setup in its own right. So if you did enjoy, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video a huge thumbs up. And also, don't forget to join the Discord, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect. You can find it also linked down in the description below. And you can also follow me over on Twitch. Everything, like I said, linked down in the description below. Also, don't forget, there is a Discord for this SMP. So if you want to follow along with that, there's also another great place that you can check that out. There's going to be a lot more to come, and I hope you guys are excited to see this and enjoying this series. Now, without further ado, it's time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Wise. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and choosing to support this content in one of the best ways possible. My goodness, you are the absolute boss. Thank you so much, and thank all of you. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.